So recently you moved into the role of client director. You were originally CEO. What's motivated you to step into the client director role?
I think one of the big motivating factors was really around, we've grown into this period now, and they say there's like a theory behind growth, which is 1 to 3, 3 to 10, 10 to 30, 30 to 100. And as we've really stepped into this 30 to 100 period, what's become clear is strengths and weaknesses. And it's becoming really clear around the business that where we had quite a flat C-suite structure, whilst good early on because it aided client conversations, as we've grown into this period, the strengths and weaknesses, for example, Kieran is a phenomenal brain and I am fantastic under pressure. But what I'm not very good at is long-term strategy. So owning a CEO role in that sense was almost harming the way that we could grow this business. And then from there, whilst it's not really a retreat, it's more of a pivot. It really now has allowed me to focus in on the areas that we were maybe being weaker in. So, that continuous client comms and giving them access. That's the kind of main thing that I've been looking to achieve with it. And so far, hopefully, it's working well. We seem to have clearer comms across the business. The clients have got somewhere they can go where they can, have that strategical input straight away, which is great. So far, and I get much less stress having to deal with things that I just don't do well.
From this move into client director, what do you hope the client's going to benefit from working more directly with you?
I suppose the true element to having me as a both founder and also into that client director role really relates to the fact that there isn't layers in between with an account manager. If the client's got a problem, coming to me means they've got the immediate strategical layer to make those decisions. And I've got the immediate input to Kieran and Alex to then get anything done much quicker. The other benefit, I suppose, that they get from me being with them is I've done this all my life. And the first thing I did when I joined the military, whilst not directly consulting as a job title, there was this Tiger team that we set up, which was essentially me and the section I was in, going around different sections and squadrons, talking to the officers about what they could maybe improve and essentially consulting them on how to improve their focuses. So the short-term answer is putting me into this role, which is much more pre-salesy and people-y. It's one of my favorite things to do, but it's something that, where they've got a question, because I've seen so much of the technology and so much of different journeys, I can immediately guide them on their strategy, which is, beneficial to some sense, rather than no disrespect meant by it, but rather than an account manager that's maybe not lived and breathed the tech from a technical position. It really kind of brings that section to it.
So recently you've stepped into the role of commercial director. You were head of sales. How does that differ from your previous role?
The role is definitely more internal facing. So it's trying to make sure that the internal teams are enabled to start working with clients right at the very inception. So what my role now looks like is sitting with the clients in the early stages of them wanting the delivery, and then over a period of time making sure that the internal team understand what needs to be delivered against the client requirement. I'm really big on trying to make sure that the technical roadmap for the client is identified very early on, and then making sure that the guys internally know how to deliver against it for a prolonged period.
Looking into the future, what's your vision for Power 365's commercial strategy?
I want to make sure that Power 365 is commercially aligned to being a Microsoft trusted partner. We ultimately want to deepen our relationship with Microsoft and let our clients know the full capabilities of the Microsoft stack. So it's really trying to breach out into the various areas of the Microsoft Business Applications suite. So we're really trying to put an onus around real strong delivery and quality of delivery. We want to try and make sure that we do that for a prolonged period of time with our customers, because everything moving forward is all about retention.
So you've recently moved from COO to delivery director. What excites you about that shift?
I think what excites me most about the shift is the chance to see be closer to the success of our delivery and seeing the delivery on a much closer scale on a day-to-day basis. Ultimately, it's really important to me that we succeed within delivery, deliver with the quality that I and the business expect, and really leading the business now into the next phase in terms of scalability and pivoting our delivery team to start achieving the growth that we'd like to do as a business. That excites me, and ultimately some of my operations background in the role I've been doing for the business ultimately is going to really help me within that.
How do you think your operations role is going to help you and lead you into this delivery director role?
A lot of scalability for me is based around the processes and our ability to do the same things over and over again and to the correct standards. And ultimately, that does come down to process, makeup of teams, and getting these right, and right at the beginning, building the foundations to be able to scale. Ultimately, some of the processes that have enabled us to get to where we are today, if we were to carry them forward as we are, just aren't going to do it. What that means is I can start putting in things like getting our functional leads in place and using them to pivot and grow the business. And ultimately, what really excites me, and from an operations standpoint, and again, going back onto the first question, I guess slightly, is the fact that I get to present our employees with further and new opportunities to grow with the business.
So you're head of project management here.
Yeah.
What does that mean? What's your main focus?
My role previously was to look at the oversight of projects, whereas now I'm looking at shaping delivery from a project management standpoint to implement the right level of governance to make sure that we're standardising the projects across the board and we can offer that back into efficiencies into the client.
Can you explain? I'm not that techy, so can you explain what that means in terms of governance, how that's going to benefit?
Yeah, so if we're doing projects to the same level, to the same standard, our level of consistency of that excellent delivery remains across the board. The aim of that would be the quicker and the more efficient that we get with our deliveries, the quicker and the better the value the client gets to realise.
Firstly, congratulations on your promotion. You've moved from operations manager to head of ops. What does that personally mean to you?
It means a lot, to be fair. Like, I've been at the company for over 2 years. I've worked my way up, and it's been hard work, but it's been great. I suppose the key thing out of it is the value that I feel. Like, I feel extremely valued by everyone. Grateful for the opportunity. It's good. It's hard work, but it's really rewarding.
Yeah, and you've been here for 2 years, but you've watched it grow. Like, 2 years might not sound like a long time in a company, but how many people were here when you first joined?
So I'd say there was probably like 7 of us when we first joined. And then in the first year we grew to 11. And then it's just been exponential. Yeah, it's been a crazy amount of growth since then.
As we continue to grow, how do you see your role as head of operations strengthening our growth?
Definitely putting in extra processes. Going from like a small company through a growth period is really hard, especially in operations, because you don't have those processes in place. So it's really important moving through, and as we're growing, to create those processes. Sometimes, again, when you're growing through ops manager through to head of ops, everything's in your head, right? So you're trying to scale yourself along with the business. My role as head of ops is putting those processes in place to really set everything up for success.